I'm excited today because I'm not only here to talk about a super cool aircraft that experimented with a super cool concept, but because a part of history that inspired one of the most beautiful aviation movies, Porco Rosso. The aircraft in Porco Rosso were either inspired by, or actually were, aircraft from the Schneider Cup. The Seaplane race spanned from 1913 to 1931. The aircraft we're talking about today was made by Giovanni Pegna. He was born on the 5th of January 1888, and as soon as he could, he entered the Regia Marina, and graduated from the Italian Naval Academy on the 14th of June 1908, being appointed to the Divisione Volante. And he embarked on the royal ship Sardinia, which seems to have been used as a training ship in the reserves at the time. During his time on the Sardinia, he received a favorable report from the command, in which he was appointed Marine Guard by royal decree on the 18th of March 1909, and promoted to sub-lieutenant, and from there quickly rose to lieutenant and then captain in 1912. Pegna taught himself how to fly in a Curtiss Robinson monoplane, and went on to become a qualified seaplane pilot. He adapted his mechanical know-how in aviation, assisting Mario Caterara, an important Italian aviation figure himself, in a hydroplane test in 1913, a few years after Caterara designed Italy's first. In 1919, Pegna was acting as a consultant for various vehicle types such as motorboats and planes while in Rome, and was being published in magazines discussing things such as politics and aviation. He soon went on to found L'Aeronautica magazine, the first issue being published in March 1920. It started off on its third year of publication, taking off where L'Aeronauta magazine left off, being made to replace it when it stopped publishing on its second year. It published official documents of the State Air Force and documents of the Italian Air Club and affiliated companies, retaining its status from its past life. Pegna began designing his own aircraft, notably the PRB, named after himself, Rossi, and Bastianelli. It was a large float plane which caught attention for its superb performance. A year later, in 1922, he founded Pegna Bonmartini Cerroni, with Giovanni Bonmartini and Cerroni. Under this company, he took his first dip into the Schneider Cup, in 1922 submitting an aircraft he designed in 1921 that I presume to be the P.c.7 as hinted in Pegna's Some Ideas on Racing Seaplanes, submitted to the NACA, which I would highly suggest reading if you want more in-depth descriptions of the mechanics of these aircraft. The P.c.7 was designed to sit in the water completely, with a buoyant fuselage and no floats. To take off, the entire engine propeller would tilt upwards, to be tilted back down after takeoff. Work on the design was cancelled for economic reasons. He developed various aircraft for this company, most notably the Rondine, which made exhibition flights for Benito Mussolini and other great Italian officials. Eventually, the company Piaggio, most known for the Vespa, wanted to employ Pegna. Bonmartini rejected the proposal, not wanting to give up such a great engineer. But Rinaldo Piaggio put up an irresistible offer of 1.7 million lira for the company, absorbing it in August 1923 and making Pegna the chief designer. At Piaggio, Pegna continued his Schneider Cup pursuits, designing the P.c.2 in 1923 for the 1924 races. While the P.2 was built, nothing came out of the P.c.2. Then he designed the P.c.3, which got far along in its construction but was never completed. His racing seaplane designing was put on hiatus until he was contracted in 1927 to make a design for the 1929 Schneider Cup. Starting with the P.c.4, a tandem engine float plane with the engines in the fuselage rather than above it like it was commonplace. He discusses retractable wingtip floats which aren't apparent in the sketch. I have to say, according to the sketch, the pilot had very poor visibility. Not satisfied, he moved on to the P.c.5 and P.c.6, my favorites of the bunch. The P.c.5 being a design with a variable wing area, and the P.c.6 being the P.c.5 but with a retractable center float that used planing fins on each side to stabilize. Pegna conducted experiments on the concept as far back as 1916, showing that any water that leaked in would be quickly expelled due to acceleration. Due to all the mechanical complexities of this design, it was never pursued. This leads us to one of the most beautiful aircraft ever actually built, the P.c.7, a seaplane which would take off on hydrovanes, which he previously had done tests on in 1917. It would be propelled by an underwater propeller until it raised onto the hydrovanes, where the pilot would start the air propeller by clutching it and declutching the water propeller, allowing for takeoff. To come up with this design, Pegna re-examined the P.c.1 and performed experiments in wind tunnels on the P.c.1, 4, and 5 designs. Pegna worked out hydrovane designs by testing the performance of a model by towing it with a motorboat. After sifting through the issues, he settled on the final design for the P.c.7. He found the aircraft model performed as expected until it got to higher speeds, in which it behaved uncertainly, and lost lateral stability along with other issues. He eventually solved most of these issues in December of 1928. Eventually, the fully built example of the P.c.7 was finished and tested, on Lake Garda, piloted by Dalmolin. The P.c.7's bow raised up on the hydrofoils as expected, but the water propeller's gear became flooded with oil and skidded. While they were partially able to remedy it, the clutch slip and Mullen's lack of knowledge of the design led to the P.c.7 never getting airborne. The P.c.7 missed its shot at the 1929 Cup and was abandoned in 1930. In 1932, he expressed how he wished to continue work on the aircraft, but if he hadn't progressed the P.c.7 so much, he'd rather have developed the P.c.1. The P.c.7 was not Italy's only fantastical design of the year. The Savoia Marchetti S65 of a tandem engine push-pull configuration was also built, the concept similar to Pegna's P.c.4, and concepts by Dornier. Italy was instead represented at the race by the conventional, but nevertheless beautiful, Machi M52R, flown by Dalmolin, the P.c.7's previous test pilot, and two Machi M67s, flown by Remo Cadringer and Giovanni Monti. This was of course due to the fact the P.c.7 never got out of the water, and the S65 suffered from overheating problems. The participating planes were not clean of their own problems though. Both of the M67s failed to finish the race, but Mullen and the M52R redeemed them a little bit with a second place finish. He would unfortunately fatally crash the aforementioned S65 into Lake Garda while undergoing flight tests in 1930. Only one more race was held after 1929. It was the 12th race in 1931, with the only competitor being John Boothman, representing Great Britain in a Supermarine S6B. Giovanni Pegna continued to design aircraft and creative machinations until his death in 1961, truly a pioneer of aviation.